Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Josie. Today I'm doing my memorial video. I do these twice a year on May 30th, and that's when my daughter was born in 1960. She passed away December 11th, 1969. So twice a year I do these videos. And if something like this offends you, please don't watch. If you don't believe in the Lord Jesus and you're offended, go watch somebody else. But thank you everyone for watching my videos. I get some lovely emails and messages that these videos do help someone. So I always say, if I help one person, that's the purpose. And my daughter had muscular dystrophy. She was not disabled, and that word I think is used too freely with so many things. Muscular dystrophy is a disease. It affects all your muscles, excuse me. And in Cheryl, your heart is a muscle, and it enlarged her heart. So this is what she actually died of, was congestive heart failure. You know, not just because she was my daughter. Children with any type of disease or disabled, they seem more mature than most children. She was a brave little girl. And I will get into some stories. One, the doctor said she would never learn to ride her bicycle, and she proved him wrong. How we found out about Cheryl's muscular dystrophy, I always thought there was something different about her, even when she was a fat, chubby little baby. But when she started crawling, she drug one leg. She didn't crawl like a normal baby. And I was taking her to a pediatrician, and goes to show you, doctors do make mistakes. They would just tell me to feed her more, because I thought she got, after 6 months, she started slimming down. And anyway, when she was diagnosed, or before she was diagnosed, her and her brother were supposed to have a tonsillectomy. And they both had a cold, and they were over these colds, but the doctor decided to be safe, he was going to do a chest x-ray. So brought her in. Both kids had chest x-rays. Her brother was fine. And that's when they spotted that her heart was enlarged. And doctor says, I'm not doing surgery. So they sent us to a specialist in Portland, Oregon. Anyway, she was a strong little girl, very determined, very, should I say outspoken? Maybe she got it from me, I don't know. Although in those days I was quiet. Because she was so thin, she had some friends in school that really looked after her. But she also had a few that teased her and called her skinny. And one day she come home from school and she says, Mommy, if they tease me again, I'm going to beat them up. Anyway, she had a great sense of humor, a very determined little girl. Scholastic-wise, she was very smart. She would try to help her brother with his homework and get very impatient with him. Cheryl learned really fast. And anyway, and with the maturity that she had, I really felt like she knew she wouldn't be in this world that long. Just some of the things she said. But anyway, by the way, with them having the tonsillectomy, my husband and I decided we would buy them both a bicycle. Well, when we found out she wasn't going to have surgery, we decided we still had to get Cheryl the bike. It would have crushed her if we didn't. She'd have been very hurt. But we knew possibility she'd never ride it. Excuse me. And I talked to the doctor about this, and he said, Cheryl will never learn to ride that bike. And I said, okay. Anyway, Cheryl knew she got a bike, and she was determined. She says, Mommy, I want to try to ride the bike. So I would go out there and help her. It had training wheels, and she failed quite a few times. But there was this one day, she says, Mommy, stay in the house. And I looked out the window. We lived on a farm. And I was watching her through the window. And she was trying to ride it, had difficulties, came back in, crying a little bit. And I said, Cheryl, how much do you want to ride that bike? And she said, Mommy, more than anything in the world. And I said, then go out and ride it. And she rode it. And I'm not exaggerating. That was the only time she got to ride it, because it wasn't long after that when she passed away. But she rode that bike. And doctors could be wrong. Remember that. Anyway, I knew that, in my heart, I could see the changes in her. I knew I was going to lose her. Sad part about it, a lot of the family's members went into denial, which that's why I am a realist. I want to talk about it. I want to face what I have to face. I don't say, if I don't talk about it, it's just not going to happen and it's going to go away. Because I viewed in my own life how and what it did to me when the family went into denial. They weren't there for me. I shouldered all of it by myself. In fact, when I discussed it with the doctor, I won't even say what he said. He was very angry. He said, you treat Cheryl like every day is her last day, because she is not going to live very long. So that's what I did. And he said, when you're eating dinner, if Cheryl, because she had a difficult time with food, she didn't eat a lot. But he said, if she wants a milkshake, you make her a milkshake. And it's taught me in life to live each day to the fullest, because we never know when it's our last. Anyway, the part that I always talk about, I've always believed in the Lord Jesus. I believe in heaven. I also believe in hell. I believe in the Bible. Before Cheryl died, it was, I think, 2 days before. She loves school, by the way. She loves Sunday school, going to church, and she loves school. And with her congestive heart failure, she retained, a lot of fluid. And so she got up that morning, she wanted to go to school, and her little feet were so edematous, they were so swollen. I couldn't get her shoes on. And I said, Cheryl, you can't go to school. And you could just see it broke her heart. Anyway, the day she died, actually that night, I had put her to bed, and we said our prayers and talked, and I don't even remember the time. It's been so many years, but we lived, like I said, in a big old farmhouse. It had a long hallway. And 3 times Cheryl walked down the hall and she would stand in the doorway and just talk. And I remember laying in that bed thinking, I was in awe. I had never heard the things that she was saying in my life. I never heard them. And remember now, in those times, we didn't have iPhones. We didn't have computers. There was no, we had the encyclopedia. So the things that Cheryl said, she had no knowledge of. And I remember laying there thinking, when I get up in the morning, I'm going to write these things down. Well, the only thing the Lord Jesus let me remember was Cheryl was talking about angels. And one thing she asked, and I know she wasn't talking to me, she was talking to the angels, because she said, can I still set the Christmas tree? And the story behind that, her dad had went and got us a Christmas tree, but it had snowed and the tree was wet. So he put it out on our porch and he said, well, the next day we could set the tree. And Christmas was Cheryl's favorite part, not because she was a child and liked gifts. She loved to go to the church bazaar and buy little gifts for family members. But I remember that so clearly, that she was talking about angels and asking them if she could still set the Christmas tree. Anyway, she did this 3 different times. And I finally, the last time I said, Cheryl, come and get in bed with mommy and daddy. And then she got in on my side. And when we woke up in the morning, I knew she was gone. So she died very, very quietly next to me. And I didn't even wear her congestive heart failure, and her heart was enlarged. Normally, I could look at her from a distance and see her heartbeat. And when I woke up and looked over at her, there was nothing. So I knew she was gone. I guess why I like doing these, to honor her memory. Also, if we can, I can give one person faith in the Lord Jesus. And I was asked after she passed away, I don't like the question, but I was asked, are you angry at God? And I looked at that person and I said, why would I be angry at God? You know that God took her home, to her forever home. And with muscular dystrophy, she could have suffered so much. And he took her before the real suffering. So why would I ever be angry at God? And I've always said to really love is to let go. That's where you show real love. You don't want your loved ones to suffer. Another thing I should have said sooner, when we took her to Portland for her test, and this is how stubborn and determined little girl, they had to do a biopsy. And they wouldn't let me go back in there with her, but I could hear her calling mommy, which broke my heart. And they had to do some sedation, and not totally out, but they gave her something. And she looked right at him, and the doctor told me this. She says, I'm not going to sleep. I'm not going to sleep. And doctor explained to me, we have to do this. So she did not go to sleep. They ran the test. When she went to sleep is my husband and I, we hadn't had lunch, and we took her, she wanted a hamburger, and she fell asleep while she was eating her hamburger. And that's what a strong, I guess I admire that, the strength that that child had. And she loved the Lord, and she knew where she was going. So if, like I said, besides honoring her memory, and I have her pictures all up in my apartment. I always have had her pictures. I'm proud to say that she was my daughter. And if her faith, if someone can just get a little glimpse of her faith and mine, then I've done what I'm supposed to do. And I know someday I will see her. And like I said, here she is. Cheryl Ann. She was my precious little girl who loved the Lord Jesus, who loved people. And when she passed away, her baby brother was just a little over a year, and she loved her baby brother. It was like her baby. And he doesn't remember her because he was just a baby. But I have told my son stories about her, and she just was the most precious thing. Anyway, I'm going to end this. I hope you got something out of this video. I hope it gives you the strength to know your loved ones. This is not the end. There is the forever home. Just believe in the Lord Jesus and have faith. That's the way to go to heaven. And you will see your loved ones. Thank you for watching, everyone, and God bless you. Bye.